Hi, this is Stray Passer. I'm back with another reaction to a Mr. Nightmare. So this one is called Three Scary Stories That Happened While Quarantine. So I guess during these times they send in stories. So let's get my reaction to this. I'll be right back. Okay, let me put my headphones in. Okay, here we go. Right now, go. Quarantine horror stories. Story 1, 2, 3. Story 1.
With all this quarantining madness going on because of COVID-19, my family and I have fled New York State to our Massachusetts lake house to avoid contact with other people.
Okay.
The lake, which I will not name for safety reasons, has a bunch of houses surrounding it.
Okay.
And in the summer months, it's full of boats and people barbecuing and drinking. But right now, in late March when I'm writing this, it's kind of a ghost town here, and it's weird seeing it like this here. Anyway, I wouldn't be here writing this if something didn't go wrong, right?
Oh boy.
My younger brothers, we'll call Steve and Glenn, were out on the deck overlooking the lake with me.
Okay.
We were setting up the table for a game of beer pong, which we invited our dad to play with us so the teams would be even. The sky had reached that point after sunset where most of the sky was dark, but there was still that hint of orange on the horizon. The lake was calm and quiet, not a single boat, and all the neighboring houses seemed to be vacant. We're truly the only ones around still. Our deck has a fire pit, so we lit that for extra light as well as heat because it was chilly. The four of us were playing a game of beer pong, when in the middle of it, Glenn grabbed his phone and lowered the music to his portable speaker. He and Steve turned around to look over the deck to the grass below. My dad and I went over to see what they were looking at. Glenn said he heard something below us.
Oh.
He could see someone walk under the deck. The deck doesn't have a stairway leading down. You have to go inside and downstairs to get down there. So my dad and I went downstairs and out the back door under the deck. There was nobody there. My dad called out a bunch of times to confirm this, and we went back upstairs.
Okay.
The thing is, Steve swore by it as well that he also heard someone speaking from under the deck.
Jesus.
Regardless, we cut the game of beer pong short and went inside, making sure to lock the door. My mom and dad were up in their loft bedroom, while I was in the living room playing PlayStation. That's when it started.
Oh.
Loud, aggressive bangs on the sliding door.
Jesus Christ.
Accompanied with the bangs was a man's shrieks and screams. Sounded like he was screaming for help.
Jesus.
The curtain to the door was shut, so I couldn't see who it was, but apparently everyone in the house heard it, because my brothers and parents came rushing to the living room.
Yeah.
My dad yanked the curtain open to find himself face to face with some red-in-the-face man banging his fist on the glass, begging to be let in. He was claiming he was hurt and needed help.
I don't think so.
My dad asked, "Where are you hurt?" He didn't answer that, though. He just kept repeating, "Let me in, I'm hurt."
Nope.
My dad then yelled to get out of here before we'd call the cops.
Hope you had weapons.
He yanked the blinds shut and told us all to shut and lock our windows if they were open. We all stayed in the living room together for a couple hours, just to be safe. We had a movie on in the background as we talked, but eventually, with no other uninvited visitors outside, we all split off into our respective rooms for the night.
Okay. Hope you got weapons.
I was browsing YouTube videos in my bed when it happened.
Uh-oh.
The crash of shattering glass so loud it made me jump out of my bed.
Jesus.
My heart instantly started racing. I didn't know if I was the only one who heard it because I didn't hear my parents or brothers running out of their rooms.
Yeah.
I picked up the phone and called my dad's cell. He picked up and whispered he heard it too, and to stay in my room and lock the door. I reminded him my door didn't have a lock.
Oh.
Of course, my room, while the biggest of my brothers, was the one room that didn't have a lock. He told me to hide in the closet and call my brothers while he called the cops. I heard footsteps outside my room in the living room area.
Oh.
I tiptoed to my closet and did my best to quietly open and close the door.
Jesus.
But the damn hinges just had to squeak.
Of course.
I sat behind a big plastic bag and texted my brothers, who also heard the noise and each locked their doors. It was the most tense moment of my life in that closet. The bedroom door opened, and I could see through the strips in the closet door someone walk to my bed and sit at the edge of it.
Oh.
He then took off one of his shoes and started shaking it, as if to get something out of his shoe.
Jesus.
He put his shoe back on, then his head actually turned to look at the closet door.
Oh.
I felt as though he was looking at me.
Oh.
There was just this silence for the longest time, until he finally spoke, saying, I know you're in there.
Ugh.
I'm sure your family already called the cops.
Ugh.
I'm not sure what my next course of action should be.
Ugh.
At that moment, I had to decide whether to stay in there or make a break for the door, and I chose the second option. I burst through the closet door, screaming as some kind of adrenaline boost.
Yeah.
I made it to the door, expecting him to lunge for me and grab me,
Yeah.
but he didn't. I ran up to my parents' loft and banged on the door. My dad opened it and let me in. I waited with them until the cops entered through the freshly broken back door.
Okay.
Then we left the room to meet them. The man who was sitting on my bed was no longer in the house. We checked every closet, under every bed, every little crevice of the house.
Jesus.
The cops recommended we tape a bunch of garbage bags over the door and shut the curtain,
Ugh.
and also that we stay awake for the night. My dad stayed in the living room the whole night, and first thing in the morning, he ran to Home Depot to buy a glass pane to fix the door. We're still actively quarantining in this house a week later. I'll send updates if the man returns.
Should have had some weapons in there so you could have, confronted him. Jesus. Story 2.
I've been staying in my apartment in Jersey City during this coronavirus epidemic.
Okay.
My roommate has since gone home to Ohio to stay with her family during all of this. So
Okay.
I've been in the apartment alone. I've been mostly just watching new movies and shows. I try not to go out too much because my city is pretty bad right now. A couple days ago, I was running extremely low on food, so I had to make a mandatory grocery run.
Okay.
I went to the nearby Trader Joe's wearing a mask and gloves, which, including the insane line and limited stock, turned out to be a production. On my walk home in the dark, I realized the streets were even quieter than they were the last time I went shopping, just a week before.
Okay.
Suddenly, out from an alleyway, some guy wearing a mask and gloves approached me. He had a baby wrapped in a hoodie and small blanket in his hands. He seemed very sincere in asking me to let him take his son to my apartment real quick so he could change his diaper and clean his food.
No, thank you.
He swore to me that he was clean.
No,
and that
thank
he
you.
really needed this favor for just 5 minutes.
I don't think so.
That it was an emergency. Hearing the baby's little cries, and the fact that this man even had a child with him and just seemed sincere, the soft part of me agreed. I led him to my apartment building. It was only a short walk from there.
Yeah.
We walked up the 3 stories to my apartment, and I let him inside, asking him to close the door behind him.
Ugh.
I cleared a spot on the living room table for him to change his child's diaper and whatever. When I turned around, the man was like pacing around, or more like snooping around, I guess.
Exactly.
He went into my kitchen to do God knows what. I called over to him that I set up the table for him to use. He didn't answer. I started getting confused. I walked to the kitchen and saw him looking around suspiciously. And what else I saw confused me. The man was standing with what I thought was his child, held in only one hand. It took me a second to understand. It wasn't a child. It was just some baby doll wrapped up in a blanket.
Ugh.
I'm assuming one of those realistic ones that make the crying and moaning noises.
Ugh.
The man looked at me and pulled out a gun from his right pocket.
Jesus.
That's where things went from 1 to 100 real quick. He looked at me with a gun aimed at me and said something along the lines of, "I'm gonna take what I want and you're gonna stay in my sight." Of course, I had to say okay with a gun aimed at my head.
Jesus.
I wondered if it could be a BB gun with a tip painted black.
Yeah.
Even if it was, I doubted I could overpower him.
Yeah.
I couldn't risk it. The man pulled out a big black bag from his backpack and filled it with valuables, including my wallet, some of my roommate's jewelry, kitchen valuables, my brother's Xbox, which he lent me, and
Jesus.
my iPad. It was sickening to watch, but I was the most scared of him pulling the trigger of that gun.
Yeah.
He filled his bag and threw the fake baby in it as well, and
Sir.
he left. I called the cops first thing. They came and helped me in contacting the building owner to see the CCTV footage from the halls.
Yeah.
Of course, upon seeing the footage, it didn't help much. The man's face was covered by a mask, making it near impossible to even discover who he was.
Yeah.
All I can do is urge everyone to be careful, not to trust anyone, and stay indoors until all of this is over.
Yeah. Should have never let him in. That's the first mistake. Story number 3.
The past month, I've been quarantining in my apartment alone with minimal outside contact because of the virus. My apartment is the downstairs floor of a 2-family house. The upstairs occupant isn't the landlord, he's just another tenant. I'm actually decently acquainted with the guy. His name's Rico. To be honest, he's a bit odd though. Of course, I hadn't seen Rico because I've been quarantining. I do still have to wake up early in the morning though for work, which I report to on my laptop now. A week ago, Rico started making a lot of noise one night. Late night, actually. I was in bed. It was like past 12. I had to be up early. And all of a sudden, I just start hearing constant thumping noises coming from the upstairs level of the house. It sounded like Rico was stomping around in boots or something. I waited for it to hopefully end eventually, but it just kept going on and on and on. Over 20 minutes of the stomping. I was so frustrated that I got up to knock on his door outside. I knocked a few times loud enough for him to hear. He never answered.
Oh boy.
I gave up and went back to my room though. Thankfully the noise had stopped. I wasn't sure if he heard my knocks and stopped because of that or what, but I didn't care much. I fell into a deep sleep for some time, till I awoke in my dark bedroom. The clock read 2:30 something. I didn't know what exactly woke me up at first. Then I realized it must have been the fact that the room was cold. And I realized my window on the opposite side of the room was open about a foot.
Oh boy.
I knew for a fact I did not do that.
Oh boy.
I got up and quietly shut it, looking around my room paranoid. I checked under my bed and in the closet. No one there. It's not like anyone could fit through that opening in the window, but someone actually went out of their way to open that, and that terrified me. I did a scope of the place with all the lights on, and I could confirm there was nobody hiding inside, so I went back to bed with one eye open. Then the noises upstairs started again, thumping and stomping. I couldn't take this anymore. It almost sounded like he was hitting the floor with a hammer or something.
Jesus.
I went up to his door again and pounded on it, yelling his name as well. Once again, no answer. I went back inside and grabbed my phone and dug deep for Rico's number. I didn't have it saved. It was buried in my text conversations somewhere. When I found it, I called him. He didn't pick up the first time or the second, but on the third time, he picked up sounding confused and like he had just been woken up.
Okay.
I said in a rather annoyed tone that he needed to stop making the constant noises. He asked what I'm talking about, and I explained the thumping noises. Then he dropped the bomb, told me, "Jared, I'm not in my apartment. I went home to stay with my family a week ago.
Oh boy.
Call the cops."
Oh boy.
It suddenly made a lot more sense, and I realized the noises had stopped ever since I went back to the door. I hung up before saying another word and dialed 911, not
Jesus.
wasting a second. As I was on the phone talking to the police operator, I heard it clicking at my bedroom window. Someone was outside trying to lift open the window, which I had just locked earlier.
Jesus.
I screamed as I realized it, and then yelled at the operator to hurry with the police. She said they were on their way and asked me to describe the man, but I couldn't. It was too dark. He seemed to hear my conversation, I would guess, and walked away from the window. 4 police officers showed up. I led them to the upstairs apartment where the door was unlocked. I walked in behind the officers, and not much searching needed to be done. There was a man with long graying hair down to his shoulders,
Jeez.
sitting on the couch, looking up at the ceiling, seemingly laughing. When the officers approached him to arrest him, the man focused in on me, still laughing.
Jesus.
He started to point at me, and that's when I had to leave because I was too freaked out. I waited until the man was in one of the police cars before talking to the officers again. I locked Rico's door, and the cops just told me to keep a good eye on the place for the time being.
Jesus.
Rico came back the following day to assess what was stolen. He's been staying upstairs since.
Jesus. Oh boy. I wouldn't go back there. That's for sure. That's freaking nuts. Whew. Those are some good stories. Right. Now, of those stories, the first one, like I said, the parents being there with your brothers and your mom, you should have a weapon. You're in an isolated place, you should definitely have a weapon. Okay? Because suppose somebody, like I said, does a home invasion or stuff. You don't got no weapons in there, you should definitely have weapons. You're in an isolated place. You should definitely have weapons. That's just insanity to not have a weapon. Okay, you're in an isolated place with your family. You should definitely have some weapons, a gun, somewhere secure location. Exact, and plus your room didn't have a lock on it. Oh my God, you could have been killed if the guy was a psycho. Okay, and past saying everybody. No, first when the guy was, like I said, banging on the window like that. Like I said, if you had a gun, your father could have went out there, or you could have went out there, together. I could have held the guy and called the cops, and they would have tuck him away, and that would have been over with instead of having to go through the terror having to hide in a closet. Okay, now the second story. Come on, that's just come on, that's just insane. Okay, just really, really insane. Okay, first of all, you don't invite anybody back to your house. Okay, you just being that's insanity. Okay, inviting somebody you don't know from Adam back to your house just because you think he has a baby. If he has a baby, he can go to the police station. Okay, you can call 911 for him and let them take him off. And they take him to a shelter somewhere. Okay, you don't invite the guy back to your house. That's just being ridiculous. You invite somebody you don't know back to your house. That's insane. Okay, even in the best of times, that's insane to try to do that. No, you could just call 911 or tell him to call 911. You should have walked away from him. Don't even engage with him. Just walked away from him. Is that don't engage? And then, of course, is that one of those doll babies that cries, and look at he's in your house and he's stealing your stuff, and you're basically effed because you can't describe him because he's wearing a mask, obviously, and so that you were asking for trouble. He could have killed you, even though he probably just figured out you ain't gonna see it because he's got the mask on his face. You ain't gonna recognize. But what if he'd have shot you and killed you anyway? Could have did that anyway, just to be sure. And anyway, in the third story, come on, that's crazy. Okay, that's like that movie. Did you check the children? Did you check the children? Remember the baby? I forgot the movie with. I think Carol Kane was in the movie. It's back in the 70s, I think it was, or 80s, where she was in the babysitting the kids, and then she's getting those calls from the house. She's babysitting the two kids, and somebody kept going, "Did you check the children? Did you check the children?" And then and then she's calling the cops saying she's getting all these wacky phone calls. Then they said, "We traced the call. It's coming from inside the house." And the guy killed her, and then she runs out of the house. But that sounds like that story. Your neighbor, you think he's making all that noise, but it's not your neighbor. He's somewhere else, and some guys is crazy guy broke into the house and was obviously going to steal or whatever, and then looked like he was trying to get into your house too, to steal from your house too. So that's crazy. So I think that's crazy. But you did the right thing calling the cops and stuff. And woof, luckily you had your friend's neighbor's number. You can call him, and he confirmed you. Oh, my heart would have probably went through my chest when I called him. He said, "I'm not in the house." I said, "Oh my God, who the hell is that?" Again, that probably would have gave me a heart attack then. But anyway, like I said, but the first story, come on. You literally, the guy breaks into the house when you and your family in an isolated cabin. He tells you, "I know you're in the closet." Oh my God. And you made that decision to run out of there. Come on. It could have ended really tragically. Like I said, your parents should have some kind of weapons. You're going to go to an isolated place like that in the middle of nowhere. Definitely have a weapon. That's just insane. Okay. And then the second guy is he's nuts. That's just being naive. You invite, even in the best of times, you don't invite somebody you don't know to your house. That's nuts. That's completely freaking nuts. Okay. So I think, he could have got killed literally because he invited the guy back into the house. At least with the first story, you got your family members in there, and they could, like I said, your brothers and could have ran and jumped the guy. So even though that's dangerous situation, at least you had other family members there with you. Okay, but that second story, that's freaking nuts. Okay, so in terms of worst stories, I think the second story is just freaking nuts. You never invited somebody to your house. That's freaking nuts. So I think the second story, the first story, then the last story. Okay, in terms of, I think, just in terms of scariness. Okay. Anyway, let me know what you think of this story, of these 3 quarantine stories. What do you think of it? I'll leave a link to Mr. Nightmare's channel in the description box. You can check it out for yourself. I love Mr. Nightmare. He's great. Love the way he tells the stories. Anyway, the whole atmosphere, it's great. Anyway, I'll leave a link to it in the description box. His channel. I have links to my other channel, Paul Views and Opinions, in the description box, as well as a link to my social media in the description box, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Please check those out as well. And please, everybody, be safe out there. And this is Trey Pastor saying so long and take care.